Guys, just post up any questions you got. We'll be running through them and asking our guys over here. We got one of the questions actually from Old Fashioned Sportsman, and he says, do we get to ask Jerry live if it's true that he thinks he could hold Devin dead center of table and that he's actually number one in North America? So what do you think, Jerry? Do you think we could hold Devin center?
Do I think I can hold him?
Yeah, his question.
I think it's going to be a good match. I think that I don't understand like to say just hold him. I mean, ultimately I want to beat him, right? And so I think if we were to go hook to hook and we started out square, I think it's a good place for me.
Okay. I think what he means by like holding centers, you know how Devin holds guys in center and then talks to them and all that. I think that's kind of what he was like. And the reason why I wanted to get both of you guys on at the same time is Jerry, you know that I've been working with Bob Brown. I got Bob as my coach and all, and I just been experienced great success and, you know, just soaking up everything that Bob's been laying out there for me. And, you know, I just was thinking maybe it could be beneficial for you maybe to maybe get to visit Bob over there and maybe get some pointers and all, because Bob is definitely a ninja on the table, as you know. And with maybe something possible that we can make happen one of these days, Jerry, would you be interested in something like that?
I wouldn't rule it out, right? I mean, Bob's from up here. He should just come home.
Right. Yeah.
Bob's from right down the street.
The reason why I say that is just Bob's got his team. Yeah. Bob's got his team and his setup. And the way Bob teaches is he has all his guys. He knows exactly where they are strength wise. So he sets it. Yeah, no, he sets it all up, you know, with the lessons and everything. And he knows which guys to put on you at what time and also. But
with Jerry, me and Jerry don't have to actually get together, you know, because I guess I didn't know. Are you actually pulling Devin? I mean, is this match set?
There's nothing set.
Oh, there's not, but eventually, right? Oh, I see.
Yeah.
And we might January 5th through 7th, Bob, which you will be there. We're doing Viticel Illuminati 2.0 in Las Vegas, you know, and, you know, they've been going back and forth. And Devin said that day for Jerry to bring all his money and his cars. And Jerry said, he'd love to grip up that day. So we have a feeling that there could be something going down in January. So that's a possibility.
You can't bring a ZR1 and then he brings a Focus, you know. Doesn't seem like an even match, you know. So maybe I bring my Polaris. It's probably just worth about the same as Focus, but whatever.
There you go. You should bring the ZR1 just so I can drive it on the Vegas racetrack, though.
Oh yeah, my God.
There you go.
That
would be fun.
Yeah.
So, Bob, what do you think of that match, man? Do you think that that Jerry has to change things up, or do you think that Jerry's bread and butter flop press would work against Devin? What's your thoughts?
Yes and no. So, what a lot of people don't realize, and obviously Jerry's here, so he can correct me if I'm wrong. It's very rare that Jerry's actually trying to flop wrist press. He's trying to keep his wrist and shoulder roll, and the top arm wrestlers just happen to take his wrist, and he ends up in that position. Am I right there, Jerry?
No, that's right. I want to dive in and go in a hook, and the people that come straight back, when they come back,
they take the wrist.
I'm going in and I allow, because my momentum's going forward, I allow my wrist to go back because that's what they're taking.
Right.
And then I just continue on.
And so the only real, I mean, it's a subtle difference, but I think when Jerry ends up in the flop wrist press is where he is the most dangerous. He's on the winning side of the table. His opponent is opened up and doing a hammer curl, and Jerry is pushing down. And Jerry has a tremendous amount of strength. And a lot of people don't know he has a crazy amount of endurance in that position. And so against a guy like Devin, who's got a real tall arm, I actually think Jerry should initiate the flop wrist press. He should intentionally let his wrist go. You know how I always say sometimes in order to gain height, you have to drag down the taller arm. Well, the problem with, oh shit, can't do that right-handed. The problem with dragging down the taller arm for 99.9% of the people out there is you put pressure on your own wrist and you might knock your wrist back when, lat dragging and dragging down your taller arm. Well, with Jerry, it just doesn't matter. If he tries to lat drag Jerry down and keeps his wrist, well, then the shoulder comes in. I mean, it's always a lat drag and bring the shoulder in is what I think Jerry should do. Whether he keeps his wrist or not is irrelevant. Because if he keeps his wrist, he'll probably drive down on Devin's pronator, and Devin ends up palm up in a losing position. Or he loses his wrist, only he loses his wrist and it's on his side of the table instead of Devin's side of the table. So in my opinion, that's the only thing I would change with Jerry is instead of going forward to sink the shoulder roll or whatever, get busted back, because then whenever his wrist gets busted back, or even if he keeps his wrist, he's on his opponent's side of the table, between the two arm wrestlers. But if he drags down and turns his shoulder in instead of pushing forward with his shoulder in, again, then it doesn't matter whether he keeps his wrist or not. The match is on his side of the table. And all of a sudden, instead of Jerry's elbow being at the front of the pad and his opponent's being at the back of the pad, it's the other way around. You've got Jerry with his elbow on the back of his elbow pad. And all of a sudden, that whole press is closer to him. And it's going to be way, way harder to deal with for the opponent to deal with it. But he's got to be able to, do that lat drag and get the shoulder behind all at the same time. And I would venture to bet that, like most people, Jerry's lat drag is stronger than Devin's or anyone's hammer curl. He should do his move coming towards himself, not going forwards.
Now, the only question, Bob, is with that, you said it's okay if Jerry loses his wrist when he does that, loses his hand when he's dragging back? Okay.
Yeah, with Jerry, I mean, look.
Well, my question, though, is everyone says,
everyone, the reality is you lose your wrist, you lose the match, right? That is true of like 99.5% of arm wrestlers out there. Jerry Cadorette and Todd Hutchins are the two guys that we all bring up, as the exception to that rule. And they are. If Jerry loses his wrist, who gives a crap? If Todd Hutchins loses his wrist, who gives a crap? I actually think Jerry is stronger pushing down without his wrist than with his wrist.
Yeah, but the only thing that I'm nervous about, Bob, is because now we're changing the muscles being used. Jerry's strong point is with the chest and the bench press. So I understand Jerry surging forward and losing the wrist and still having the power to push down. But will he still have that same power on his side, pulling back first? That's
something tells me Jerry probably has a really good lat drag.
We got to find that out. Yeah, we got to get on that, Jerry.
Can you do a pull up?
Oh, he does tons of them.
A whole bunch of them.
Well, then we know he's a 300 what pound guy?
330.
And how many pull ups can you do?
About 40
in a row.
Yeah,
on his fingertips,
okay,
bro.
Then that question's answered.
Yeah. Okay.
That question, I guarantee you that Jerry can out lat drag anyone's hammer curl, but his wrist, no, he will lose his wrist if he lat drags, because when you lat drag, you're putting pressure on your own wrist.
Yep.
You know, it's like you do a pull up, you try to keep your wrist doing a pull up, and we all end up like this eventually, you know. So when he lat drags, he's gonna lose his hand, you know, and it's gonna slip. And then that's the other thing, in my opinion. And even Jerry will say he wants that strap really tight, okay? Because he knows the guy's going to take his hand. He knows the guy's going to try to, you know, fight out of his fingers. And so Jerry's pulling on a wrist. We've even seen straps come apart. And I remember, I forget who you were pulling, Jerry, but I don't know. It wasn't the last guy or the time before that. One of the few times ago, the strap came completely apart, and they had to tie you guys back together.
Yeah, Georgie.
That's when I called you up, and I'm like, look, you know, most arm wrestlers put the strap low on their wrist, and they do it because they're, you know, your back pressure point is now lower, and you can create more back pressure and whatever. The problem with putting it low on your wrist, if both of them put it real low on their wrist, is in the middle of the match, that strap slides up to the wrist, creates slack in the strap, and allows for it to come apart. Now, you can't necessarily tell your opponent that he's got to have his strap around his wrist. But if I'm Jerry, especially once you know you're going to be in that war with the bent back wrist, and it's, you know, once you're in the war once, you're usually in that same war every time. Jerry wants to put the strap right up on his wrist line, get all the slack out of the strap that he possibly can. I even messaged Ingen after that match happened. I said, if you ever have a strap come completely apart again, then the next time you put it on, the competitors have now lost their right to ask for it 1 inch low. Just put the strap right up on the strap line, put on the wrist line on both competitors. This is only if the strap has come completely apart. And then it won't come apart again. That's why it comes apart, because that slack, it happens. People used to think the strap used to actually work its way backwards outside the buckle. That it's not what's happening. Maybe that has happened in the past, but we got better straps now, and it's what's happening is that slack is being created because everyone wants that strap 12 inches down their freaking wrist. Yeah. You know, and so anyway, that's what I told Jerry about the slack. But yeah, if I'm Jerry, especially going against a really long lever guy like Devin. If you know, the one match, Devin was real smart. He lined up like he was going to shoulder roll, but Devin didn't really. He lined up super tight, and everyone thinks he's going to bring his shoulder even further forward and turn into a shoulder roll. And what he did was just collapse right in the center. He just took Jerry's palm right in the center and turned it up like this. He didn't even bring his shoulder any more forward, because I don't think he wants to get shoulder to shoulder with wrists turned inside with Jerry. I don't think he wants to, at least not in the first round, you know.
He's trying to supinate him and get on the bicep.
But when he did that, now Jerry is like, you know, you're stuck in no man's land. because it's very hard to push this way when you're palm up in the center of the table. It's different if you're here and pushing down. You can get a lot of pressure doing that, especially Jerry. But when you're like this, you're kind of hung out in no man's land. And Devin knew it and just was, doing what Devin does.
How does he defeat that? How does he stop that from getting wrist curled inside?
He pulls straight back, because when he pulls straight back, if he gets supinated straight back, now he's on his side of the table. And it's going to be much easier to get behind it. When you're out here, you can't get behind it. But when you're here, you can get behind it. I really think that Jerry's first move should always, I don't want Jerry to like lat drag and then go sideways. I want him to do it. Sorry. I want him to do all at the same time. It's literally down and in, or what will more likely happen, down and in with that flop. He'll get flopped because the other guy's still back pressuring. He's still trying to take the hand. It's just that when Jerry goes towards him, I mean, he's giving him that 7 inches of pad.
And you're also getting stuffed right there too. If Devin stays forward, there's no room for you to get in, where you're creating space to get that shoulder in. So it doesn't matter no more if they're trying to block you. Because even like Hermes, he was trying to block you from getting that shoulder in. If you, instead of diving in, because they know you're diving in, now you pull down, you're going to throw these guys completely off, bro. And then once they think they figured that out after round one, then switch it up and go diving in round two. Really confused the shit out of them.
All these back, like Hermes is a perfect example. When Jerry goes forward, assuming Jerry's going to lose his wrist, which against a monster top roller like that, we feel Jerry, in my opinion, Jerry's probably going to lose his wrist. If you go towards the guy, you're just giving it to him, Now, if Jerry grips on, let's say Jerry grips on the Hermes again and thinks, all right, I am not going to lose my wrist this time. My wrist is stronger. I got a better grip, whatever. And he wants to go towards him again, even if he keeps his wrist, his shoulder roll, fuck, I can't do that right-handed. His shoulder is not behind his hand because Hermes is still back pressuring. And since Jerry goes towards him, he gets back pressured, so he gets opened up a little bit. Even if he keeps that wrist, his shoulder roll is not as strong as if he just wrist curled right in the center of the table and then went sideways. If he has a strong enough wrist to do that, which I don't know if Jerry does against someone like Hermes or even Devin. If Devin decides to top roll because his arm is so freaking tall, and we all know Devin is going to do everything he can to bleed Jerry's hand before the go. Like he's just going to mess with it. And Jerry's hand will probably get a little pumped before the go even happens. So that's why if I'm Jerry, if I'm pulling against Devin, I just commit to the fact that I'm going to lose my hand. I just don't even care. I'm just lose my hand. I don't care. I'm going to slip, I'm going to lat drag and turn my body all at the same time. And my hand goes, but we're all on my side of the table. And if Jerry gets in his position with his elbow on the back of his pad,
it's a bad day for whoever's on the other side.
No one can hold that up. No one can hold that up.
The other thing I like about that, Jerry, is now you're not fouling, bro. You're not coming off an inch or two off the front of the pad, bro. If anything, they're fouling. You're dragging them back and all. As long as you don't go off the back and too far, you're good with that. Yeah. Well, I definitely like that.
Do you have guys at your practice, Jerry, that can take your hand? Is there anyone that can take your hand?
No.
So the only way for you to really test this is to somehow purposely get your hand tired? Like, is there someone that's close to getting your hand?
Oh yeah, I mean,
Dominic
if
and
I
James
go through the guys multiple times, right? Then there's a couple that are strong enough that they can give me the back pressure that I need on my hand.
Could we get RVJ over there? Maybe the RVJ might be a good one to train.
I talked to him. He's gonna start coming down again too.
This is one to work with him.
So if RVJ came over, and can RVJ take your wrist or no?
No, the
okay.
And
so
Nick,
before
Nick Stone, Nick Stone, but then again, I mean, during practice, it just depends on if you're tired or not tired,
right.
You know. So
yeah,
I think
so what I would do if I was you, and I really wanted to test this thing and try to get a real feel for whether it's going to work or not, I would probably grab, a 50 or 75-pound dumbbell and do a freaking 100 wrist curls before you ever grab anyone's hand. So your arm is still fresh and your wrist is screwed,
Yeah.
And then do your normal move going forward. Your hand will get taken, and then you're probably going to push him down because you do, versus lat dragging, let your hand get taken and push him down, and then ask the guy, which way did I push you down easier?
Yeah.
And I have a feeling they're going to say, well, when you went like this, hell, I mean, that was like useless. Yeah. But it's, and I don't really think it'd be that tough of a transition for you to do, because I'm sure your lat drag is crazy freaking strong. I mean, even at the elite world level, it's like, people say Jerry's hand is crazy freaking strong until you compare it to the top 5 hands in the world. Okay. And that's all I'm talking. I'm just comparing Jerry to the top 5 guys in the whole planet right now. And in the top 5 guys in the whole planet, I think all of them are going to take his hand. If that's their purpose, if they're focused on getting Jerry's hand, they're probably going to take it. So who gives a shit? Go like this, come towards yourself, let the hand go, super tight strap. I don't think anybody can hold you up.
Bob, I think this is like genius, brother, because I was a little nervous with like trying to go with a different move and all. And I was thinking like maybe we're going to start like top rolling, because I know that's Jerry's go-to move in practice, though. Bob, he doesn't press at all in practice. Everything he does is a top roll. So, it's kind of weird. When I first went to a couple of practices, I'm waiting to see this crazy flop press. And I'm like, what the hell is he doing? He's doing like a top roll, which I've never seen. Right. But what I like about this, bro, it's just a matter of just going from diving in and pushing to just pulling back is the only change of move. And as you're pulling back, you're bringing that shoulder around. I like it, man, because it's really the same move. It's just you're bringing it onto your side of the table, and you're going to be more powerful because it's coming more into your center.
Yeah. I mean, the other reality is Jerry doesn't have to dive forward or drag backwards. Just let your wrist go on purpose and go sideways. I mean, either one. I mean, you're just, again, I mean, I've seen Jerry practice a lot on video. And he, like you said, he top rolls everyone. And I think Jerry can top roll 99.9% of the guys out there. The problem is the only guys he's really arm wrestling anymore on this world stage is the 0.1%. I don't think Jerry's top roll can hang with Ermey's top roll. I don't think it can hang with Devin Lorette's top roll. I don't think it can hang with like John Brzezink's top roll.
I agree, but it's like saying the same thing for them. It's like Devin can't hang with his flop press. It's just their move. No, exactly. Yeah.
And then they're all. I would reverse all those same things. They can't do what he does. And when Jerry goes in on his shoulder roll, what's interesting is Jerry needs to get his opponent, when he comes in on that shoulder roll, he wants to get his opponent palm up. And most people think that requires more cup to break down your opponent's pronator. Well, that's true when you're top rolling. But when you shoulder roll, what breaks down your opponent's pronator is forcing your knuckles down.
Down pressure.
It's not down pressure from the beginning. When you get behind, knuckles down, if you think about how the other guys hold, the other guy goes like this.
Okay.
Well, even if I'm in a wrist, I'm like this, and then Jerry grabs a hold of me and does knuckles down, and I go like this. And when two guys are inside like this, shoulder rolling each other, the guy whose wrist is like this is the one in trouble.
Yeah, supinated.
You know, and you just got to get to the winning side of your table. And I saw Jerry just, dumped Devin right over.
That's it. We have a question from Igor Cheng. He says, could Jerry explain how he manages business together with Arm?